Hello YouTube, Tim here, and I wanted to make a review of something because I was having trouble finding online reviews of this particular product, and I had already gone and sort of jumped in and wanted to give it a run and see if it was really worth it. Ultimately, this is my new computer. This is my only real computer at this point. It's what I'm doing all my video processing on, minor, since most of it's on YouTube, and just a little of this and a little of that. But it is my main computer, really. And this is a Dell Venue 11 Pro. It's a laptop. The thing weighs about 3 pounds 4 ounces, which puts it approximately 4 ounces heavier than the original MacBook Air. The screen size is 10.8 inches along the diagonal, versus most common products of this type are about 10.1 inches. And what I mean by products of this type is it's a convertible. This is the computer. This is just a actually really nice keyboard with a huge battery inside. The two of them put together form basically a normal laptop. And so what's so special about it? I guess the reason I wanted it was I wanted something that I could use leaning back and reclining like a tablet, and it's nice and light. This is about half that weight. So like I said, about 3 pounds 4 ounces for both of them put together. There is a lighter, thinner travel version, but the quality of the keyboard, in my opinion, isn't as high. This feels just like a normal chiclet keyboard, and it's very comfortable for me, which, that's saying something to type on. It's better than your average netbook. It's not up to the standards of some of the best keyboards in the world, but it's very, very good. So the other reason I got it was because I was tired of my last computer had a lower resolution screen, and text is just jagged and unpleasant to look at, and yeah, first world problems, right? But at any rate, it just was, when there are 1080p screens out there, that's what I was after. So in this case, the screen is lovely, does have a full 1080p screen. Let's see if I can get it. There we go. Everything is nice, crisp, and sharp. It just looks good. It behaves well. Think of this as the same as the Microsoft Surface, only without a whole heck of a lot of the defects the first generation had, and some extra nice features. It's a tiny bit larger, like I said. It's a tiny bit lighter. It doesn't have the nice, super awesome build quality of the Surface, because that magnesium frame is really, really nice. Gave it an air of durability and class. This doesn't have, but the soft touch plastic is still fine. It does tend to pick up some fingerprints, but it's not unacceptable. It feels nice, and the best feature, I really, really like this, is you can pop the back off, even though it doesn't feel hollow. You can pop that off and replace the battery. So I figure in a few years, when the battery's starting to show its age, I can refresh it, get a new one, and keep using this until something else in there blows up and dies, which who knows how long that'll be, but still, it gives me a little bit of extra confidence. Let me also say just that the whole reason I got this, a Dell, rather than I was looking at the Asus tablets, the Transformer Book T100, which is a little bit cheaper. I got this because of a friend, their experience with Dell's customer service. They were out of warranty, and Dell, on their own, just suggested sending it in and give them a complete replacement of their defective product. They stood behind it. That kind of customer service really gave me a lot of confidence, and that's why I decided to at least look at Dell, which I hadn't considered in over a decade. But that brought me to here. So I talked about the battery life, and that was another requirement. This tablet has somewhere between an 8 and maybe a 10-hour battery life on its own. Combine that with the keyboard, and that adds approximately 50% more. So you have a 12 to 15-hour battery life altogether. And that's with just constant usage. I typically keep the screen brightness settings all the way down unless I need them higher. Here, I'll put them a little higher, well, it's too high. I'm trying to find something that looks good on the video. Anyway, I usually try and drag the battery life out as long as I can, but I don't feel like I need to babysit this one. I feel that, I end up going and using it throughout the entire day. Sometimes I've even gone 2 or more days without needing to charge it. If I want, I can top it up. It comes with a 24-watt charger, so it charges very rapidly from nearly empty to nearly full. Very rapidly. I couldn't give you an exact time, but in about an hour it went from about 20 to over 80% charge. the performance. It's an Atom processor. These are some of the Intel's new Bay Trail processors, and as far as CPUs go, this is one of the best things they've ever done in the Atom line. Because I remember our old Atom netbook was a dog. And yes, it worked, and it wasn't way, way worse than the Pentium 4s we were using at that time, but it still was not an impressive machine. Eventually, Intel released dual-core, even quad-core Atoms, but they were never very special. Right now, with Bay Trail and the integrated HD graphics, you get fantastic battery life. This is better than the Microsoft Surface. Better battery life with much higher, with desktop level performance. Now, I'm not going to say this is equivalent to an i series, like an i3 or i5 or i7, not even close. But this is roughly equivalent to the old Pentium 4s, the Core 2s, things like that. It's probably on par with those. And a day-to-day browsing experience and just general use, I don't find any lag or problems with it. It seems very snappy. Windows 8 is a very, very well-done OS, at least for touchscreens. This part is pretty clunky if you want to use it as a laptop, but then you just go right to the desktop and it's good old Windows just like it always was, if you happen to be a Windows fan. I haven't tried to do anything else like put Linux on it. That may or may not be possible. My guess is it's probably not possible. But still, I do have BlueStacks running, so I can run most of my Android applications on here too, which is a nice bonus feature that I wasn't requiring, but it's a nice feature. The trackpad's nice. It doesn't have separate buttons. The corners are just what you press down. A click pad, I guess is what you'd call it. And that leads to a few problems where occasionally when you're clicking and scrolling or click drag, it interprets that as a pinch gesture and leads to some zaniness. But in general, things are pretty smooth and work really, really well. There was also an issue where every 15 minutes or so, the keyboard would go to sleep and the computer would, even though it's still attached, just not be able to use it. Dell pushed out a little update, or at least on their forums, they told you how you could fix that with a quick registry hack, which is pretty sad that it needed it. And as far as I know, they're rolling that out in just an executable or a patch that everybody can get and use if you're having that issue. Not all of them were, but mine was. It fixed it. I followed the advice on the Dell product forum, and that's wonderful. So, what can you do with this? I wanted to run some benchmarks, and so I did. I went ahead and I pulled up some of my 3D Mark benchmarks with this, comparing it to some other computers that I have. We have, and in the meanwhile, I'll go ahead and I'll load a game in Steam just so you can have an idea of what it might be capable of. Compare this machine in the Ice Storm Extreme test. It got a score of 9,664, and I think that was the lower of the two scores. It had actually gotten a slightly higher score at another time, but considerably higher, about 14,000. Still, that's an okay score. It's respectable. It puts it at the high end of mobile devices, so it performs fairly well. And anybody wants to friend me on Steam, I guess you could go ahead and try that. Anyway, let's go to games, see what we have installed, and I'll load up a game. How about Torchlight? I've only just started playing that, but it'll give you an idea what it can do. Now, to compare that score of, call it 10,000, I had another machine, a Core i5 machine with a Core i5 760 processor. That's basically a second generation Core i5. And it was, with the exact same test, got a 42,289. Its graphics card is a ATI Mobility Radeon 5570, whereas this one just has the integrated HD graphics on Bay Trail. So it's roughly 4 times as powerful, with a way more powerful CPU. With a different computer, with a much more powerful graphics card, not the Mobility 5570, but the HD 5770. A very similar, slightly older i5 750 computer got a score of like 40,000. No, I'm sorry, 70,000. So there's a big difference there. In my experience, this thing has gotten somewhere between a sixth and 1/7 of the performance of my more powerful not gaming machine, but it's what I use as my home theater PC. It's by no means new. It's an old computer that really has nothing going for it other than, you know, an i5 or an i3 in the case of my media PC. But you still do get some pretty cool stuff. Here's Torchlight. Runs pretty smoothly. You can continue and load it. And so if you're planning on doing some light gaming with a few games, older games, this is about 6 years old. It runs. I even tried it with Assassin's Creed 2. And Assassin's Creed 2 could run in 800 by 600 resolution, which I haven't used since 2002 on anything, which is saying something. So in general, I wouldn't go ahead and I wouldn't try and run any game that's newer or more demanding, but if you want to play some older games or some lower intensity games, especially if you can scale down the graphics and stuff like that, these are pretty acceptable. So, you know, there it is. Depending on what you want to do with it, this can be an excellent computer. Great battery life, fantastic screen, fairly light and portable, and extremely light and portable if you just take this off. It has a bunch of benefits. It does have the micro SD card slot, which some other devices lack. Full USB slot. It would be nice to have more, but one is acceptable. Charges via standard USB, even though the 24-watt charger that comes with it is the only one that you'll want to use. Believe me, if you try and use a regular one for a regular cell phone, you'll be charging it for days, perhaps. Anyway, I think that's a pretty good overview of it. You can do some light gaming, general computing. It's far better than, you know, something like a Chromebook. Not nearly as limited as a Windows RT device. And you have the full power of full Windows 8.1. I really like it, and I'm glad that I have this now, so I can get rid of all the other machines and all the other things that were going on and enjoy it. I didn't really see any other reviews online, any good ones, and if this was interesting, great, I hope you liked it. Let me know if there's anything I can show you in particular, if you were looking for, I don't know, a SunSpider benchmark or anything like that. Let me know, and I can try and do stuff like that for you guys. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for watching.